A new keyboard that's packed with value and is actually full-sized? This might be the full-size keyboard you've all been waiting for, because we've been in a drought of great full-size keyboards for far too long. And it's the real deal, a proper full-size keyboard. Not one of those fake 96% boards with a small zero on the number pad where you have to contort your thumb to even press it. This is the Aula F108, and it's proof that Aula is slowly taking over the world. So much so that they're overtaking Keychron, the usual go-to option for budget keyboards. Because whenever you buy a keyboard, it's just a meme to say, buy a Keychron. It basically means you won't be upset by it, but also not blown away by it either. They're just a safe bet. But soon people may be saying, just buy an Aula instead, because Aula is coming hard after Keychron, including the full-size lovers out there, my mother-in-law and you included. She's been watching the channel ever since the beginning, but is too scared to try out a smaller layout. She's also scared of trying sushi, but you know, one thing at a time. But I get it, change is scary. Sometimes all you need is a keyboard that feels safe and comfortable, but feels a little bit more premium than that old Dell keyboard. She's been asking me for a full-size keyboard for months now. So will this be the one I finally give her? After all, she's my mother-in-law. I can't just give her any keyboard. It's gotta be a ridiculously good one. I recently did a video on the best full-size keyboards, and a couple days after I finished it, I saw an Amazon listing go live for this keyboard. So I had to buy it, especially after all of the comments from you guys. But how does it stack up with the other full-size keyboards? And is it gonna be the new go-to? As we all know, the Aula F75, the smaller version of this keyboard, is considered the best budget keyboard by most people. It got super popular on TikTok because it's creamy, and then exploded as the #1 most popular option on Amazon, Temu, and AliExpress. But the real question is the Aula F108 just as good as the F75? If so, it's an instant buy. And after testing this bad boy for 2 weeks, I'll be honest, they're not exactly the same. It's got a lot going on with the new RGB side lighting, an LED light bar, and more. Don't get me wrong, it still has a lot of the features you're looking for, a gasket mount, tri-mode wireless, similar switches, but it definitely feels and sounds different to use, which I'll get into more soon. Okay, quick question. Have you ever Googled your own name or email address? Well, let me show you something. That there is my info being sold online. Honestly, it's creepy knowing people are selling my personal details without my consent. They're flooding my email with spam and blowing up my phone with robocalls. That's exactly why today's sponsor is Aura, a service I recommend to other people like my family and friends. Aura automatically finds and removes your personal information from these shady sites, and they handle all the complicated steps so you don't have to. But Aura is way more than that. If Aura finds my information on the dark web, I get notifications letting me know instantly. And if people try to open a credit card in my name, I get fraud warnings. The 24/7 monitoring of my identity also helps me sleep a little better at night, not having to worry about my identity being stolen. And Aura even comes with a secure VPN, antivirus software, a password manager, and even more. So if anything happens, Aura backs you up with $5 million in identity theft insurance, plus support from US-based fraud experts. Honestly, knowing my data was out there being sold felt terrible. I'm no longer leaving myself vulnerable, and you shouldn't either. Right now, you can try Aura free for 14 days by going to aura.com/switchandclick. During those 2 weeks, you'll see exactly where your data is being exposed and start protecting yourself. Again, that's aura.com/switchandclick. And back to the video. To see if this is the new best full-size keyboard, we'll be comparing it to the Keychron V6 Max, my current favorite. I absolutely love that the V6 Max comes with 2 dongles, one USB-C and one USB-A, and of course, it has the bouncy gasket mount we all know and love. The only problem? Keychron doesn't quite nail the sound and feel that you really want in a keyboard nowadays. The stabilizers usually need a little bit of modding, but if you want that ultra satisfying typing experience straight out of the box with no mods needed, Keychron's not the best option. Although you could say they make up for it in other ways, such as being super reliable and having fantastic software. Now this is where the Aula F108 swoops in. This keyboard comes in the proper full-size layout with the full number pad, the full navigation cluster, and all the rest of the keys you full-size lovers want. Nay, need. It even comes with a few extra media keys for volume, which I find are super convenient. And if you're willing to pay a bit extra for the Pro version, you can get a knob instead. I actually really like the media keys, but the knob can be a bit more convenient. You also get the calculator button if you're not great at math like me. I can feel my parents' disappointment every time I use this. And it's the first full-size keyboard that gets closest to what I'd want in the sound and feel. Unless you want to go the extra mile and pick up a custom keyboard like the QK101 and full send a keyboard build, which I did try last month, but the keyboard was broken. You'll hear the sound test later, but let me just say, for whatever reason, they haven't quite figured out how to make it sound as good as the F75. But I can really see why Aula is slowly eating up Keychron's market share. The Aula comes with keycaps that have a tri-tone mix of white, black, and baby blue keycaps. Okay, it's not the nicest combination of colors, and it sort of bugs me that the light blue legends on the black keys are different than the colors of the inner key, but you know what? For the price, you're getting a lot here. However, they are PBT double shot with 2 layers of thick plastic that should help keep the greasy fingerprints away, while the keycaps on the Keychron board really cheap out on the amount of plastic. If you look at it, the walls have a much thinner coating of plastic. It's only double shot at the very top. Both keyboards have a few minor errors on the legends with slight differences in the thickness of the fonts, but overall, the quality is pretty good. I love that the Aula comes with keycaps in cherry profile, so they're a little lower and angled more aggressively for a more comfortable typing experience. While the V6 Max has Keychron's OSA profile, these keycaps are more round and slightly recessed, so your fingers really slot into them when typing, but I've never really been a fan of OSA. It just feels a little out there for me. However, before jumping to any conclusions about which one's better, we need to look at the price. Keep in mind, this is a full-size board. It requires more switches and more keycaps than a 75% keyboard. And it's currently $99 for the F108 versus $70 for the F75, which means you're always going to be paying a bit extra, but I'd say it's a good value price. Then compared to the V6 Max, the price ultimately depends on which features you want. But for a similar configuration to the Aula, you're looking at $119, which is $20 more. Now, I'm not sure how long these prices will last with incoming tariffs, so if the price changes, you can't say I didn't warn you. But the Aula is coming out ahead here. The keyboard is also blasting with RGB. In addition to per key RGB, you get this LED light strip above the arrow keys and RGB side glow. Now, I'm not a huge RGB enjoyer, and if you are, there's no shame, unless you're a gamer, of course. It came with a really bright green color, which I instantly hated since it clashed with the color of the board so much. But in the instruction manual, I found a shortcut to change the color, which you can also do with the side glow, with FN and left control, left shift, left alt, all the key combinations. Speaking of the side glow, I didn't even know it existed for about a week because I couldn't see it while using the keyboard. Although if you look closely in a dark room, it does bounce off your desk, which is pretty cool. But thinking of my mother-in-law here, I don't think she'd actually care that much about RGB. Maybe she'd think it's interesting, but it's not a major selling point. She just wants something that's a little nicer for work. So we'll see if this is the one I end up giving her. Along with the keyboard, you also get a few extra items in the box, such as the instruction manual, a pretty cheap feeling cable, a keycap and switch puller combo, a few extra switches, and a dust cover. Who actually uses a dust cover? It almost feels passive aggressive by brands at this point, like they know I'm not gonna use it even though I probably should. But hey, maybe my mother-in-law would. The keyboard also has a few indicator keys on the top left next to the escape key for caps lock, num lock, and Windows lock. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't ever look at these indicators. Do you guys actually use them? I'm curious. That being said, I do like having them there. It makes me feel good knowing those lights are there if I need them, so I don't hate them either. But the more I've used this keyboard, the more I've come to realize how different it is from the 75% version. That's when I realized something. This keyboard has the Leopold Greywood switch as the only option. The Aula F75 had 4 options, and the Greywoods were my least favorite. Instead, I preferred the Leopold Reaper switches. They were the best sounding and feeling overall. So I wonder why they went with the worst option here. That being said, the keyboard still sounds pretty dang good and has a nice bottom out. It just doesn't have the extra level of acoustics that really scratches the brain. But if you really don't like them, the keyboard is hot swap with south-facing switches, so you can change them out as needed. But does it sound good enough for Jake's mom? She really wants a full-size board, but the Keychron doesn't sound that great either. Now I could give her my next favorite, the Epomega TH99, which I think sounds way better, but it's not a true full-size. It seems like we might have to compromise somewhere for her. But first, we need to take a closer look at the 108. So I pulled this thing apart, I ripped out the switches and the keycaps, and I pried off the top case. And what I found is a flexible top plate that is absolutely full of flex cuts, which makes it feel more flexible and bouncy. The only problem is they're a little uneven, which makes the keyboard have these extra flexible hot spots. But if you dig a layer deeper, you also see the PCB is packed full of flex cuts too, which makes sense how this thing bounces so much. I like that it comes with removable gaskets. If they ever break, you should be able to replace them. I also like the extra bit of foam under the spacebar to dampen the unwanted noise and up the thought level a bit. In between the plate and PCB, you get the squishy plate foam, a PET sheet, and a thin layer of plastic underneath it. And on the back of the PCB, you get even more foam, except this one is lightly glued to the PCB. Underneath, there's also a nice layer of silicone. And once you remove that, you can see the 4,000 milliamp hour battery. This thing should hold a charge for a long time, even longer if you turn off all the extra RGB. But what's this? There's also a little square next to it, which is another chunk of foam. That must be the cutout for the Pro version where you get a second battery, but on this one, you only get one. So they fill the empty space with the foam to prevent any hollowness. Overall, the internals look almost exactly the same as the F75, but just bigger, expanded. What's also the same is the software. The software on this board is atrocious. Technically, it can do everything you need it to do. Technically. But for whatever reason, they made it so you can't change the size of the screen, and it's nearly impossible to read. Plus, you have to download it. Browser-based software like VIA is the way to go, people. But you know, with a full-size board, software is probably not even going to be a deal breaker. And I don't think my mom will use it either. So, will I give this board to her or the Keychron V6 Max? Will it be another nail in the Keychron coffin with Alla standing on top with a hammer? Picking a keyboard for someone else is scary. But you know what? I'm gonna go with the Alla F108. And I hope she likes it. Here you go.
Thank you. It is so nice. Thank you. You're welcome. Sounds good too.
Is it better than your current one?
Yeah, definitely. It's an upgrade.
You got that, Pat? Thanks for watching, and check out this video right here.
Watch, switch, and click.
You got the name right.
Subscribe!